Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Houze. I am the VP of Digital Strategy and Encoding at BCLive. We're a video production company based out of Los Angeles. And a couple rules to get going here. If you guys have a question at any time, just raise your hand or just shout it out. Because I know how it is, like you have a question in the moment and then by the time we get to the end, everybody forgets it. Or at least I do. So feel free to any time just ask a question and I'll repeat the questions for the archives. All right? So our topic, obviously you guys know because you came. We're going to teach you how to choose the best voice for your live stream. But first things first, we're going to do something a little different. Don't get scared now. I'm going to pretend we're at church, okay? So you're going to look to your left and look to your right, and I want you to introduce yourself to somebody that you're sitting next to. Your name, who you represent, and in honor of the Met Gala, who are you wearing? Hey Ross, I'm Dan. Nice to meet you. Welcome. I won't ask you who you're wearing. I don't know. I'm wearing Gap, so you know. So Aubrey is already regretting this decision of letting me moderate. So I'm just curious here. Back to me, folks. All right. So how many in the room represent a brand today? Just curious. You're representing a brand. Cool. How many represent an ad agency? Or how about a production company? Okay, a lot of production company folks. How about you representing yourself if you're a social streamer? All right, cool. It's good for the panel. It's good for us to know kind of who our audience is, and that way we can sort of speak to you. So, and I'm not trying to dumb this down, but it's really for the archives and also just to kind of reset a little bit. So I'm going to ask everybody on the panel, or if somebody wants to just really take this, what is a social streamer? And in particular, in today's climate, what is a social streamer?
Ultimately, I think it's someone who has a connection to an audience that they've built, mostly organically, though not always. But it's someone who really connects in a way that their audience trusts them. When you say social streamer, obviously there are lots of different platforms. Some people like to dive in headlong into one particular one, and they can build a following there, etc. But ultimately, when I think social streamer, I think somebody who is trusted by whatever size audience they have built.
Anybody want to add to that?
I'll add on that, similar to what he was saying, was that community is a very important element. So whatever platform they are on, there must be the ability for them to interact through comments with whoever is viewing, and to somehow be able to generate a community with that audience where they have a very close relationship with that audience. It's not just I'm talking to you and you're watching, it's we're interacting with each other. So I think that aspect is extremely important when we talk about social streamers.
Yeah, absolutely. And our category is awesome because the way that it was written out, I want to break it down into sort of two areas. One is leveraging the talent of the social streamer and what that's about, and then leveraging the following of that. And then we'll dive into some other things, right? But kind of separating those out. So talking about the talent of a social streamer. And again, you know, our audience in this room is mainly production companies, maybe learning, they want to know how to work better with talent, or you know what, actually I won't flesh it out, I'll let you guys do that. So how do we leverage talent specifically?
I think a lot of it is when you're talking about working with someone, it's interesting because a lot of the time they are kind of driven by their platform in today's kind of media market where, you know, we've seen people become quote unquote YouTube stars or they're Snapchat stars. Lots of times people are kind of beholden to one platform or the other, and that kind of drives who they are and how they connect to their audience. Somebody who is on Snapchat has a very different vibe than someone who's on Facebook Live. But regardless, if they've quote unquote made a name for themselves, it's because people engender confidence in them. It's because people feel that connection with them. And I think ultimately the most important part is trust. This really changed for me about 5 years ago when I have 3 girls, and my oldest daughter started talking about people who I had never heard of. And as someone who came up with the paradigm of television and movies, to see this whole generation that kind of aspires to and trusts these people the same way you and I maybe thought about movie stars growing up. These kids are all about these YouTubers and people that they see on Snapchat. And that was just a world that I hadn't leveraged at all. I didn't even think about it. And I had owned and ran a website for about a decade. And you think, oh, I'm on top of it. I know what I'm doing. I know social media. I'm on Twitter. But then there's this whole other world. And that's, to me, was the major key, is that idea of trust. And they will go and do and follow anything that person says. It's kind of scary, it's kind of cultish, but it's really powerful. If you want to get a message across, if you want to push an idea, etc. In production, as far as supporting somebody in that realm, it's funny because a lot of the platforms are really easily accessed now. Whereas back in the day, they were hyper specific to each platform. Now you can be on every platform all the time, synced up if you want to. So you, as a production person, can offer, well, look, I know you're really big on Snapchat, but let's get you on Facebook. Let's get you on YouTube. Because ultimately, if you're a marketer, if you want to reach eyeballs, your audience is everywhere. Your audience isn't just on one stream. So ultimately, I think that's the most important thing. And you'll probably hear me harp on this a lot today. People can dominate a certain platform, but there is always audience other places. And to me, that's kind of the best way to kind of push social streaming forward.
I would say from a production standpoint, a lot of the social streamers are DIY. They are accustomed to producing the show maybe themselves or with a small team that they use over and over again. And the tools now are pretty incredible. What used to take a truck to do doing off of a single laptop. And I think that if you're going to sort of try to leverage that and work with them on a different scale production, it's important to try to preserve their look and feel of what they normally do and not kind of shift it around into something that's foreign. And that is right in line with that connection with the audience and trust. If it all of a sudden looks like a completely different style production, they might disconnect from their audience. The other thing that I would add, though, is that it can work the other way, too. Some of the tools, while great, are maybe not exactly as industrial strength or broadcast grade as we're used to working with on larger productions. And so there's a fine line to walk between sort of matching the production style, but maybe shoring it up a little more, making it more robust for a larger production with the talent. If you're bringing the talent in externally into your own production, there's, you want to make sure that you probably have a lot more writing on your event than that social streamer's daily event that they're doing, or their daily stream.
Doing from their bedroom or
exactly,
whatever, right?
Exactly.
Well, getting them, it's like finding prosumer stuff that they can use, that they can incorporate, and that's like not too cumbersome on their end, because you want it to be authentic, you want it to be organic, because that's how they built their audience.
Yeah.
But yes, that idea of the paradigm shift of, okay, the shaky cell phone video was fine, but we're doing it for a much larger production / more professional setting.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. When you're working with social streamers, do you find it's better to incorporate your content into their channels, like into their streams? Or are you doing it the other way, where you're bringing them on as talent into your content? And where do you get the better results?
I think it depends on the context of the campaign and what you're trying to do. So obviously, if it's like a product, right, then I think it's probably better to have that purely integrated into their stream and integrate then using that product into their stream. Whereas if you're holding like a launch event or a special campaign or your broadcast, if it's more an offline event type activity, then I think it would be the second choice. So for me, it really depends on what type of activation that you're looking to do.
And the thing is too, it's funny because for a long time I struggled with the idea of, okay, we're going to put a product in a video for so-and-so's Facebook Live or YouTube or whatever. again, the generational thing where I, for the longest time, was very resistant to the idea of native advertising, or look, so-and-so is sponsoring this video, and look, it's so cool, and they're just playing with it on their channel. That, to me, was very like, oh, that's so kind of crass and commercializing. It's such a sellout move.
It's exactly how they do it.
But that is it.
Yeah.
That's where
they're like, they'll even say like, oh, I got this in the mail. Yeah.
They all live there now.
Yeah.
And it's just this weird idea where like, I don't know, growing up, man, if you heard your favorite band in a commercial, oh, total sellouts. Now that's the goal for like any
Well,
artist,
I think
really.
part of
It's
it
crazy.
too is, in speaking to the social streamers or the independents in the room and people that are thinking about getting into this, that's really how they're going to make their money,
That's
right?
exactly.
Because they're
Not
not going to make.
necessarily.
Oh, challenge me, yes.
Our platform, so we didn't get a chance to introduce ourselves, but our
Oh, I'm so
platform
sorry. Yeah.
is the Meet Group, and we have a portfolio of social mobile entertainment apps that we've, social networking and dating, and we've integrated live streaming into them. And we built the product, and from 0 to 12 months, we now have an $82 million annualized revenue run rate, and none of that comes from working with brands. It's all from in-stream virtual gifting.
So like microtransaction stuff?
Very interesting.
Like microtransactions and that?
Or
tips?
I can, if I'm a viewer on the platform, I can purchase, virtual currency, and then I can send these virtual gifts to streamers that I like, and the streamer gets a cut of that virtual gift. The platform gets a cut. Obviously, Apple and Google get a cut.
Okay.
But it's a virtual online currency exchange through gifts. So there are other options
good,
available.
yeah. And let's keep on that trend.
If you're familiar with Twitch, they have their subscription model as
Right.
well. So I think besides brands that for live streamers, there's actually plenty of other ways to make money. And that's also something that you need to consider as well. For example, if you're working with a social streamer, because whether it's our platforms, whether it's LiveMe, YouNow, Twitch, if they do have these other ways of making money, then you need to think from their perspective. For example, if they can earn a lot of money just through virtual gifting, then why would they work with your brand, right? So you have to give them, maybe they want to work with your brand because of the prestige of your brand. Maybe they want to go to your event because they want to, they think that the event would be really cool to share with their audience. So you kind of have to balance that, because actually for a lot of live streamers, they can earn money without even working with your brand. So actually there's less of a motivation to, you really have to find from their mindset why they would want to work with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you define social or gift? What is that? Or virtual gift?
Virtual gifting. So it's essentially you go on the platform, right, and you can use your credit card to buy a certain amount of this virtual currency, right? And then if
So you're spending actual money.
you're spending actual money,
Yeah.
right? You're spending actual money to buy this virtual currency, and right, maybe $1 equates to a certain amount of virtual currency, right? Every platform is different, and then you log in. You're watching your favorite streamer, and you really like this person. You think they're doing something fun, something cool. You want to capture their attention and get them to notice you. So you can press a menu, and there's different virtual gifts, which are like little images. Some of them are animated, some aren't. It could be a star, a heart. There's like a Ferrari. Like different images, right? And kind of different images are different prices, right? So you click on one, choose the price, you send them the gift, and then they get a cut of how much that gift costs.
I see smiles out in the audience. I mean, I think it's kind of funny too, just this whole concept, right? The question I have for you is, what percentage of these people that are doing this are under, I would assume it's more of a younger generation, right? And how do they have money? Like, how do these kids have money?
Not necessarily. Actually, our platforms are all 18 and older, actually.
Oh.
I think the majority of our users range from in their 20s to their 40s. We have quite a lot of our streamers are in their mid to late 20s. A lot of our viewers maybe even skew older. So it's not all for the kids.
That's
no.
something to remember too.
Some of the platforms skew much younger. I'd say like Live Me or things like that. So you need to kind of play around with the platform.
Aaron, hold your thought. I want to just interrupt something because I did forget. So you introduce yourself. Let's just real quick continue and you guys introduce yourselves, okay? Just so I can get that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm Aaron Nagler. I started a website with a buddy of mine. It's called CheeseheadTV.com. It covers the Green Bay Packers. It started as a WordPress blog that my dad and 2 other people read. And it is now the #1 independent website covering the Green Bay Packers. And we do content, social, video each and every day. I live, breathe, and I guess consume the Packers at an insane rate. And it's what I do for a living, and it beats work.
Nice, nice. I'm Casey Charvet. I'm the co-founder and director of Gigcasters. We are a software development firm, and also we provide live engineering and support for live streaming, and we aim to bridge the broadcast world and the streaming world.
I also just want to add one more note.
Please.
I work for the Meet Group now, but my background is actually in 2016 and 2017. I was a full-time live streamer on several Chinese live streaming platforms over in China. So that's my background as well. Is I come from the history of being a full-time social live streamer.
Cool. So let's jump across real quick to talking about the followings of social streamers, and sort of like how do we leverage that following, right? And I want to jump to Casey on this because we had a call last week and we were chatting about a few different ideas. And one thing that Casey brought up was talking about understanding the metrics that are available, right? And sort of some of the challenges and some of the positives that come along with that. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so to kind of dissect your question, I would say, when you say leverage, I think it's important to understand how you define success on that undertaking. So no matter if you're an advertiser or you're a brand or doing a special event and you want to engage the audience of a social streamer, what are you actually looking to accomplish with that, and how do you judge success? And when you look at these platforms like YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, etc., you have these reports that have just tons of numbers on it, and they all say certain things, and there is some meaning to extract from that. But I think that having a clear objective really lends itself to doing that. And so, if you're doing a large-scale Facebook event and you get sort of a report at the end of it that says you had this many likes and you had this many shares and so on and so forth. And so I think one of the big tricks to that is looking at the numbers and saying, okay, well, do 10-second views mean something to me? Do likes and shares mean something to me? And kind of working forward from that. And there's actually a lot of data science that I think is going to begin to evolve around this when people, because I've seen reports where it's like, oh yeah, we had this many million, 10-second views. And it's like, well, I don't know if that necessarily means anything. What did the chat look like? What did the shares look like? What did the likes and actions around it? And I think that there's actually a lot more in those, even though those are typically smaller numbers. I think looking at like a ratio of those numbers to total views can be more meaningful than just going for sort of the bulk, big, impressive number. And I think communicating that to the stakeholders is also important.
Well, what's interesting too is that can drive you creatively and or whoever you're dealing with on the streaming side as talent. It's like, look, okay, we had this, and here were the most. If you've got, let's say, an hour-long stream, and you can, with the numbers and the analytics, you can point to where people were most engaged.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Here's where it really lit up. Here's where people really kind of fell asleep, and that way, going forward, if you work with that person again, or if you work with someone else and you find another relationship, etc., but you can point to, okay, this was really successful for us in the past. Maybe we need to shy away from what we did here. Maybe we need to make different choices. But yeah, it can get a little kind of paralysis by analysis when you're just kind of looking at the bulk stuff. But to me, it's always about going back and going, okay, that was really engaging and people were really on board with this. as opposed to all this other stuff we were doing, and maybe we need to rethink that.
Yeah. Well, and once you lose a viewer, they're probably not coming back. If you bore them after the first 10 minutes, it's not like they're going to go do something else and then come back 10 minutes later. If you lose them, you kind of lose them. So the trick is to kind of keep things compelling and keep them hooked as well. And all that makes itself apparent in the data as well.
Lauren, would you have anything to add to that? Particularly, you were mentioning about the stakeholders. I find that that's where the challenge is. I recently was encoding a show at YouTube Space in LA, and the executive producer, God love him, every 5 minutes he was in my door. How many views? How many views?
Oh,
how
yeah.
many views?
Oh, yeah. The how many views.
Calm down, sir. So do you have any but that's important. I mean, people that are paying for these projects, or ultimately the stakeholders. Do you have any words of wisdom there to share?
Well, the two things that came up for me just now when they were talking, one is definitely comments. I think that looking at the comments, and I know that's a lot harder than, data, you got some great numbers, you can map everything out, right? But I really think that looking at the comments and what people are saying during the stream and the level of interaction between the streamer and the audience, if somebody is sending a comment, that means they're very engaged and focused on what's going on in the stream, right? That's a different level of just, instead of just watching the stream, right? They want to talk to the streamer, they want to find out more, right? So measuring just the number of comments alone, I think, is a really important data point. And then also looking at the comments. For example, are they talking about the brand or the product or the event that you're promoting, or are they just saying random things to the streamer? Like, how relevant are the comments? Because that's very important as well.
How do you guys feel about moderating comments?
That's very important. I mean, all of our platforms
has to be
have
done.
moderation features,
Right,
so
right.
that's definitely important.
I don't know. I guess it depends on what the environment is and what kind of event you're holding. If it's, if it's a big conference or what have you, then yeah, of course, obviously. But if it's, again, it comes back to what I was saying before about the trust and the relationship that the people, it's not self-policing, but it kind of is, in the sense that, look, if you're going to engage with a social streamer, you're going to engage with someone who you are entrusting your brand to, well, I think, hopefully you've done your homework and you know what kind of person they are and what kind of audience they have. It's a tricky spot for me, just because I know I would, if I was working, I've worked with brands like back in Wisconsin, like dealing with rock companies and beer companies, etc. And I would probably bristle a little bit if somebody said, okay, well, we are gonna lord over your comments. Well, no, that's my audience. So while I think it's important, and obviously you don't want anything untoward out there, I think, again, it's about doing your homework and kind of knowing the person that you're engaging and a level of trust. I think a big part of it is the whole reason they have become popular, or they have an audience that you want to engage, is because those people trust the streamer.
But I think you have to have a basic level of moderation. For example, all of our streamers have the ability to appoint 5 of their viewers that they, like loyal viewers, to be what we call their bouncers, and essentially they moderate the comments, and they're able to.
That's their audience doing it.
Well, we also obviously we have a very large moderation team that we're also using AI algorithms to monitor, and if we see things going on, then we'll be kicking people out as well. So I think that you don't want to monitor extremely tightly. Like, you want to be able to have conversation flowing, but you also need to have a basic level to make sure that things aren't getting out of hand, that there's nothing that's extremely violent, hate speech, things like that.
I've never seen any of that in a Bernie Sanders live stream. I've never seen any of that.
As I was going to ask you, how you manage those resources, so you actually get you actually engage your audience to help you moderate the actual event?
And they love that, because to a loyal viewer, to get that badge of honor saying that that you trust them enough to monitor their stream for them, like, they will show up every day and watch your entire stream because they're just like that. That's totally a badge of honor to be their moderator. So, because we only give them like select spots, so you can only a limited amount of people. So that really means that the streamer really values you.
And your answer to that negativity is to just kick the person out? Is not try to win them over?
No, I mean, each streamer has their own way of doing it, and each streamer will kind of set their own guidelines as far as what they allow to be talked about in their stream. But I mean, most of the time I'm talking about something that's more extreme. There's trolls. There's always trolls who come in, and no matter how nice you are, you're never going to win them over because their goal is just to be mean,
Chaos,
right?
yeah.
So just to create, yeah. So.
Like in your case, right? You beer, right? So
Right.
it's on there. I don't like that beer. And
Oh.
garbage,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I mean,
Which is
that we
negative for
wouldn't.
your brand, but
I think that's just discussion, right? People
Well,
are,
this is discussion, yeah,
unless
that's
unless
what
they
I'm
start
talking about.
saying something very extreme
Right.
about the brand, then I wouldn't see a need to,
I totally understand.
yeah.
That extreme stuff, should go.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, people say, well, your beer tastes like garbage.
Yeah.
This,
To
I like
me-
this beer, I like, this.
Right. To me, it's always about the manner in which, and my kind of somewhat joking kind of mantra there is always, when fired upon, return the fire. And I always kind of like, if you are going to engage in a certain way, then I'm going to speak your language, right? Now we're not gonna delve into hate speech or anything like that, but if someone has a legitimate comment about, oh, I tried this at this is a beer festival the other week and I really didn't care for it. Well, what didn't you like about it? Blah blah blah. That's fine and that's great. And like, it's not like we're not going to shut down speech, just because someone may have a differing opinion. And again, that's why whoever it is has the following. Usually, not always, but usually, it's because they're open to ideas, they're open to conversation, and their audience knows that. But the idea of deputizing the audience is such a good one. It's because it's true. I have people who show up. I do a live chat every day, and people in the comments are like and subscribe, tell your friends. They're kind of
they're brand
evangelicals for
ambassadors.
me, So that's a really good idea. But yeah, I think a big part of it is you don't want to shut down differing opinions. Absolutely not. And again, it's really case by case as far as
I would say
what you might be producing.
It depends on the event. I mean, we were live streaming a festival, and we had an artist pull out of opt out of doing the live stream because they were concerned about the comments that they saw on a previous performance. And it was it was pretty mean stuff. It wasn't called for at all. And we tried to explain to the artist, and they're like, look, it's just how the internet is.
It's like, you explain to the artist, welcome to the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you're a public figure and you're going to do a public performance and stuff like that. And they just said, nah, don't stream us. And so we had to go, with a card.
I was just going to
for
say,
that.
did you go to card?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And it was unfortunate.
So how long did they play?
It was like a 45-minute set because it was a festival. Wow. So yeah, I mean, we really didn't have anything queued up to take that place because it was so short notice. And it was unfortunate. So I'd say case by case, you have to understand.
This is a great point, though, especially for the folks here in the room that are representing a production company or planning for these kind of things. This definitely is something nowadays that needs to be on your checklist, right?
Yes.
Let's jump back to talking about the talent of a social streamer, and you guys were mentioning earlier about ways to help that social streamer. Are there other ways to help moderate or to help? Are there other tools out there that you've used in production that kind of help that experience?
What
in terms of, or is it just by platform? In terms of the moderating and in terms of,
right.
like little links within the stream, little links within the chat room, ways to get products, placement, stuff like that within a chat room specifically.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's...
It could be too far down the rabbit hole. Maybe nobody cares.
No,
It came to my mind.
I think it's something that's, again, it is a little bit specific to the platforms and how you can engage with people. It's funny because you can set up, like you were talking about the virtual gifting. Like YouTube has what's called Super Chat, and people want to get noticed, want to get recognized. If you have a monetized YouTube account, which a lot of streamers do, their audience can literally pay $1 or pay whatever via YouTube chat, and that's a way to kind of get their attention. And oh, hey Bob, thanks for coming by today because you gave me $1 or whatever. As far as like supporting. It's just know the platforms. that's something that I keep going back to time and time again, is if you're in production and you don't know most of, if not all of the platforms, you're behind. Like, in this day and age, you want to be able to get, if you're working with someone with a significant audience, and you want to get them in front of all the other eyeballs in the world. Just because they're big on Snapchat doesn't mean they're big on YouTube, and vice versa. And if you have the power to get them on those, if you have the ability to cross-post or cross-stream on all the other platforms, take advantage of that. Because your audience is fragmented in this kind of media crazy landscape we live in now, and there are so many potential eyeballs just there for the taking.
Cross-posting is a really good thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Big time.
And this kind of goes to your earlier question about do you go to the channel of the talent, or do you go to the channel of the brand? And actually the right answer is both, especially within the platforms. There's now, on most of them, easy ways to go to multiple targets within that same
Does
platform.
everybody know what cross-posting is on Facebook? So basically what it is you can go live on your Facebook page, right? But you can set up permissions ahead of time with other pages that say, yeah, if you want to go live on your page, and then we've set up a permission with each other, and this is only Facebook, you can actually go live on my page as well with that same stream. So it's not that other brand or that other page is sharing the stream. It's actually, it looks like you're going live on their page, but the metrics all come back together. Is that correct?
It aggregates them.
Yeah, it aggregates the
It's
metrics,
kind of a
which at
nice
the end of the
feature.
day, that's really what everybody's kind of going for,
Yeah.
right? And so the other brand as well has access to those metrics, right?
Right.
So an example is we did a show for on ABC. We were doing a Q&A for a television show. They were going live on their own page. It's for Empire. Little show. Or Fox, isn't it? It's Fox.
Fox.
Sorry. Should cut that out. And so we were going live. We were going live on Fox's page, but Empire also has a huge following on their individual social media pages. So Fox was, that's where the main account was. That's where I was getting all the credentials from. That's what was dealing with all the permissions. But we set up cross-posting permissions with several other individual pages. And so when we went live on that, then another box comes up and it says, yeah, go on live on that page, that page, that page. And it's all in the moment, so the permissions are all set up ahead of time. So a little ad for Facebook there. But it is a very cool feature when it works. Yes?
Does that not divide your audience? Should you not try to consolidate your audience in one space?
I think attempting to consolidate the audience is a little futile. I was actually a really big fan of trying to drive people to one target and have very clear messaging. This was a couple years ago, and I was really kind of evangelized the idea of go here, drive people to one place, and then really own and take over and do well in that one place. And what I realized that changed my mind is that there's sort of like this big pool of potential viewers, and when you go live or when you cast a net, you really want to go as wide as possible. And there's a good chance, especially with social media. So to back up, one of the key things about streaming to a social platform is leveraging. I mean, yes, you're leveraging the audience that exists for that talent on that page, but you're really using the notification and alert system of that social platform. Very few, in my experience, maybe it's different for other people, but very few people actually respond to and see oh, there's a live stream coming up by somebody that I know and like, and I'm going to put that on my calendar. I'm going to remember to, because even for a good size band or talent, if it's not part of a regularly scheduled line of programming, if it's a special event kind of thing, like let's say we're doing an activation with a brand and an agency and we're bringing the talent in, and it's not part of their regular viewing audience, or you want to kind of get other people don't really put on their calendar, oh, there's this live stream coming up and I'm going to remember to be in front of my computer or be in front. It's the notification system within the platform that really seems to reach the audience 100%. And get them to tune in.
100%.
And so if you go wider with that net, you're basically just getting more notifications out.
And the thing is I had the same epiphany about 2 years ago, where I was very much, we got to drive people to our page. We had our homepage. We would do a takeover every time we did a live stream of the, and we wanted, like, it's got to be on r.com. And I think we were embedding it on YouTube. And then all of a sudden it was, wait a second, and again, it comes back. Most of my professional life comes back to my daughters teaching me stuff. But like ultimately,
Smart man.
Ultimately, I kind of noticed that they're all three of them have their own kind of media diet, right? And the more I looked and the more I delved into the numbers as far as who was watching us, people are coming to you wherever they are. I want to go meet them there. Because driving them to me is, I'm not going to say futile, but it's nowhere near as effective and nowhere near as engaging as if I go where they are. So if you've got someone that's why I say, like, learn it now, get out there and learn every platform, because that's where your audience is. Your audience is on Instagram, walking down the street, oh, there's a alert.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it on.
I'm gonna view it there.
You know,
Yeah.
or I'm on Snapchat, or I'm on YouTube, or whatever. And the thing is the other reason I kind of had my like about face is the idea that these platforms, while really powerful and really engaging, and there's clearly audience there, they can change everything like that. Look at Facebook. Facebook basically destroyed local news on a whim. You know, they had all this buy-in, all this goodwill. People made complete, pivots to video. And now there's newsrooms that are decimated across America because they all wanted to get in on Facebook Live. But then they changed everything. So it's like, don't give them the power. Take it yourself and get on all the platforms. So that way, if something changes, if Twitter changes whatever, or Facebook changes whatever, okay, fine. I'm still reaching everybody on Instagram. I'm still reaching everybody. Well, eventually they're all going to be owned by one person because Instagram and Facebook are the same people now anyway. But you want to be on all those platforms because there are people everywhere, and they all have kind of media diets. That's what I always call it, about how they consume. And they have routines. They wake up in the morning, and whether it's their smart TV, whether it's the phone in their pocket, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a Facebook portal, however they're consuming media, you want to be there. And it's the easiest and best way to engage an audience.
I think that brings up another good point too, is that maybe there is still some value to building a regular schedule of programming. And that
I think absolutely.
There's a lot of value.
Absolutely.
That's what
Yes.
our streamers, the most successful ones, have very set time. I mean, most of them stream like 5, 6, even 7 days a week, but
Right.
they have very set times, and that their audience knows from X time to X time, if I go on this platform, so-and-so will be
So-and-so's gonna be
streaming,
there.
right?
Yeah.
And if they're not there, then everyone's like, where are you? Why are you not there? Like they have to tell people in advance, like they're not going to be there, and
Yeah.
that does wonders for, we say like, the consistency is king, right? It's like, it really is when it comes to being a live streaming talent. Like if you're there every day showing up,
Yep.
then you're going to skyrocket when it comes to viewer numbers.
it's almost like there's a lesson to be learned from radio and television there.
Imagine that.
Well,
But it's
I
definitely
remember.
building both.
I remember
Yeah, totally
an
agree.
interview that Oprah had, and she was talking about the success of her television show. And one of the things she said that she felt was most successful about her show is that she was able to carve out that time slot in people's daily lives.
Exactly.
And they look forward to it every day. And somebody said, like, well, could you exist today? And she said, probably not, because of how things are so spread out. One of our clients is Philip DeFranco, and so I wanted to ask you about, does this also apply the strategy to uploading videos and not being live as a social streamer, but just having a channel on YouTube where you actually edit and curate videos? Do you think that this applies to that as well?
Ooh, VOD is a different animal, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
In terms of uploading at, hey everybody, at 12 noon every day, you're going to get, a 30-minute news digest piece, a
30 minutes.
curated.
What is this, War and Peace?
He has a staff of 20 full-time people, so yeah.
That's a good question. I don't really know a good answer to that one. I would say that what we've seen with VOD is that from a lot of what my clients, VOD has a very limited lifespan of about maybe 3 to 4 days. if they're a high volume producer and they're also going live, because this goes back to the audience and engagement and interaction and being able to interact. If you're doing VOD, you're kind of cutting off the ability of the audience to interact with the talent while it's live.
Okay.
Now, obviously one of my clients produces a lot of things in post as well as their live stream, and so they upload these sort of post-produced VOD pieces that include, animation and other things that they're not necessarily going to be able to do live. And it gets good viewership and it's got legs, and so this kind of turns the notion on its head that of the regular schedule. So I don't actually have any data points on a regular upload schedule to share. I would be very curious to see how that works.
It can be used as a good conversation driver for when they're live. Like to me, we've done that where we've done, okay, we're going to drop X preview video, which again has a shelf life because you're previewing something that's upcoming. But then that is something that you engage with your audience in regards to. But again, it comes down to what kind of staff you have, what kind of ability to turn these things around, where so that 3 or 4 day window, the ROI is worth it. It's like you don't want to spend all this time making this gorgeous video that half your audience is going to miss and then is kind of irrelevant 3 days later.
So we have 4 minutes left. I do want to get to just general Q&A. If there's any other questions that people might have from the audience, you guys can go, but anybody else, you guys are awesome, thank you. Anybody else that has any questions? Yes, sir.
Certainly, like your live stream moderation and logo insertion, is there any service providers you guys use that stand out for aiding the moderation and other stuff like that for your live video streams? Like Telescope, I think is one. Is there any other ones you guys?
No, but if you hear of one, please let me know.
I would say we use Switchboard Live and also Restream.io. Restream.io will help aggregate all those chat rooms for you, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, and I seconded on Switchboard.
Yeah, Switchboard's great too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was going to be my question as well. Is how do you moderate when you're pumping out to 10?
Moderate at scale. Yeah, that's a good question. Good business idea there.
Well, we have a very large team. We've created AI algorithms that do, they review the chats, the chat text. We go in to every stream about every 10 seconds and take video screenshots of what's happening in the stream, and we have AI review that, and if there are any issues with either the chat or the images, then that gets forwarded on to a human who will then, it gets escalated to a human who will then review it, and it kind of goes up the chain. So, we've built in, very systems for that. So, because we have millions of minutes of videos across all of our platforms every day, so we have a very large team that does that. But that's kind of how we handle it.
On my end, I have a big television that has Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and all the comments that I ever get in front of me live. So it's really, as far as being the streamer, that is a challenge because it's funny too, because everyone is there because they want to interact and they want to be part of the broadcast, so to speak. And you have to be careful not to, I'm favoring, you just answer the YouTube stuff. Well, no, I got Facebook here too.
So you have a multi-view and you have the different chat rooms up there, and then you have a couple producers that are kind of just watching it and feeding information.
Sometimes I have support.
Or sometimes it's you, or it's your 3 daughters.
Yeah.
You could, that'd be a good
built-in.
Let me tell you, there would be there was actually the other day, my daughter hopped on the chat and said, "Dad, this is so boring." Great. It's really organic. Good fun. Good.
That's awesome. Yes, sir. Last question, and then we're going to wrap it up for you guys.
When you guys stream to multiple platforms, do you do it independent to each platform, or do you use one product to be able to go to all the platforms?
Aubrey would know that. Aubrey, what do we use to make it? What do we use in the studio to link everything up? You would know. I don't know.
Everything?
Well, in the MCR, what's the orange box?
What's the encoder?
Yeah.
We use an elemental.
That's it.
Those are usually great.
So you set up a profile to each, like YouTube, Facebook, and
Yeah,
I'm just
well,
the
for Facebook we use Clearcaster.
Yeah, these questions that goes over
And
my
then
head too.
for Twitter and for YouTube we use the elemental.
okay.
Yeah, most media, any commercial media server product usually includes the ability to hit multiple targets. I don't want to plug any particular
Right.
product, but almost all of them do. And then there are dedicated cloud services that are good for hitting things. It gets
Restream,
interesting.
Switchboard,
Yeah.
those are two.
It gets
good
interesting
ones.
when you try to hit something like 200, 300, 400 targets at once. That's where and we've done that. We've for certain brands that have dealerships, for example, we want to hit every local dealership in the country on their Facebook page, because that is a way to get to sort of their own organic
So that's where the
audience.
cross-posting
right.
would come in,
Yeah.
right? Because you can
That's-
push one
yeah.
stream to Facebook and then...
And so when you're talking about
Yes,
hitting
yeah.
like 600 Facebook pages,
Yes.
it does get a little bit interesting, but that's, it's probably a good example of marketing in the future, in the way, a sign of things to come.
Well, we are at 12:30, guys. I want to keep our schedule because it's time for lunch. Thank you so much for attending the panel. If you want to come up and talk to anybody afterwards, we are very approachable. If not, have a great day. All right? Thanks a lot.